Ladies and gents, welcome back. We are coming on 1 year since the Freedom Convoy set off to go to Ottawa to protest mandates imposed on us by our federal government. And we're learning some things about the inquiry into the Emergencies Act that the federal government imposed on, well, all of Canada, because it is a nationwide scope for the Emergencies Act. Now, what's troubling information that I'm just learning this week is that the cabinet for Justin Trudeau's federal government is getting advanced screening of the ruling from Justice Rouleau in the commission. And to talk about this, I brought on Keith Wilson, lawyer from the Freedom Corp and, well, in the JCCF as well. Keith Wilson, thank you for joining me today.
Great to be on.
Yeah. So what is this that I'm hearing? The inquiry took place. We had all of the testimony. Then they went through another series of talking with bureaucrats and lawyers and all of this stuff, only to come up with a ruling that on February 6th, Justin Trudeau's cabinet themselves are going to get this in secret. And they're going to be able to review this, or I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, until the 20th when it's presented before the Parliament.
Sure. It's highly unusual and deeply concerning. And, you know, the way the Emergencies Act is structured is the Parliament that brought it in many decades ago believed that it was such a dramatic, powerful tool where the government gets to write itself a blank check over your rights and freedoms, empower itself to freeze bank accounts and seize your property and so on, that if the Emergencies Act were ever invoked in the future, that the express wording of the act says that the government must appoint a commissioner, a judge, to hold a public inquiry. And this is in section 63 of the Emergencies Act, if anybody wants to look it up. And then 63 sub 2 says that the commissioner must prepare a report and on his findings and lay it before the parliaments of Canada, so the House of Commons, the Senate, and each of the provincial legislatures, so the legislature in Victoria, British Columbia, Edmonton, Alberta, and on it goes, and must do that, complete that within 1 year of the revocation. So that's coming up. And there's a requirement under the Order in Council, of course, that appointed Commissioner Rouleau to hold the inquiry, that he file that report within 1 year. However, there's another clause, and it says, it's Romanet 4 on page 4 of the order. It says that the Commissioner Rouleau shall disclose his report on February 6th to the cabinet and to the prime minister. So is it going to be the same? That's highly unusual. A judge does not let one party see his decision before another party. I can tell you as a litigator of 28 years that what happens is you get notified when a decision is ready. And in the old days, we'd go send a runner or clerk, an articling student down to the courthouse to pick it up. And now it gets emailed.
We're talking about showing the defendant the ruling first. Like
emotionally,
of all the parties to see it first, the defendant, the party who's supposed to be defending themselves in justifying why it is that they used it in the first place.
And what mischief can arise from this is one of two things. At best, which is still bad, is it gives the prime minister and his cabinet 2 weeks to figure out how to spin things and maybe do things in terms of announcements and policy decisions in the 2-week period in between to give them additional cover or position on when it's finally released to the House of Commons and the provincial parliaments and the public. At worst, it gives an opportunity for the prime minister and his cabinet ministers and his staffers to put pressure on the commissioner to change his report. That's a possibility. That you just don't do this, right? It's outrageous.
And this is all in secret as well. This isn't something that the public would even find out about if it were to if it were to happen, hypothetically?
They're going to release it to and our view is it shouldn't happen at all. And at a minimum, if the prime minister and the cabinet are getting to see it, then the rest of us should see it. The public, Canadians.
Hmm.
It's the Canadians' rights who were trampled.
That's right.
So it's really concerning that we're facing this right now, and it has the potential to put an air of just to cast a dark shadow over the whole inquiry.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't even, I'm at a loss for words because I mean how dramatic this whole situation was. The idea of the Emergencies Act in the first place was to replace the War Measures Act, which was abused, and the whole concept of having a more open and transparent way of using the act if it were ever to be used. And well, here we are today. We're going on the 1-year anniversary of the convoy. I think it's just coming up when the trucks left British Columbia out here where I live, and they started heading towards. This was a giant inspiration for Canadians and people around the world who love the concept of self-governance and manifesting their own destiny, not being told what they can and can't do with their own lives and bodies. Are there any plans for what's going on? Any celebrations?
Sure, there's been a lot of news coverage about a variety of things. So first of all, you know, I was on the ground. Eva Chipiuk and I were on the ground in Ottawa a year ago for the convoy. We arrived on February 2nd, and I was there for 19 days. She was there for 23 because she was going to be Tamara's ride home because she couldn't fly, obviously. But rather than get released, Tamara got held in jail for a prolonged period of time. So in any event, Eva and I have worked very closely with the original organizers of and leadership of the Freedom Convoy, and we continue to this very day. Even this afternoon, we were on a number of calls, and this morning, and dealing with various issues. So I can tell you that Freedom Corp, the board, the organization, the not-for-profit that was created to help manage the $12 million in donations, is still active. And they're not organizing any particular event. James Bowder, who was the fellow from Canada Unity. Canada Unity is an entity that's existed for well over like 2 years, maybe 3 now, and went to Ottawa and became part of the protest. He's the guy who wrote the MOU and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that existed prior to the convoy as well. Not that the legacy media will tell you that. So James had talked about holding on his own, had nothing to do with Freedom Corp or Tamara and Chris and others. He'd talked about holding a reunion convoy into Ottawa, and then there was such pushback from the police that got canceled. James,
before you go on, I know there was a lot of people that wanted to go to Ottawa to, I don't know, have a party, get together, and a lot of people called it off. Said, somebody's trying to plan a convoy 2.0 and want nothing to do with that. It looks like that might be trouble. And I know personally, like I know I was invited, and there was other people that were invited that all got squashed because of the backward media. I mean, there was all kinds of calls from the usual types, the Toronto Star and things that here comes the new convoy, and nobody really wants that feel for a get together, I suppose, unless some people do. I don't know anyone who actually wants.
Well, then it trouble. Then James decided to move it to Winnipeg, and then some commotion occurred, you know, from what I understand from social media and other briefings I've received, and then he decided to cancel it altogether. But apparently some other group is now still talking about doing Winnipeg, but it's not in Winnipeg, it's outside of Winnipeg, and it's at a camp. And it might not even be about the Freedom Convoy. So it's all organic and all over the place.
All right.
But the good news is the Freedom Convoy board has thought about, you know, how can Canadians who watched and participated in the Freedom Convoy, the tens of thousands that showed up in Ottawa at various times, the thousands and tens of thousands, literally, that lined the highways and overpasses, and those that donated, because remember, there was people that really supported it and they couldn't get to Ottawa, and they for whatever reason couldn't get on an overpass or the side of the road and wave a flag and hold a sign, but they donated. It was the most spectacular fundraising in Canadian history. How much raised in so little time? How can those people, and people did that. We talked about this. We had a retreat last week as the board to plan some things and deal with all the different legal mountains we got to climb this year. And we all concluded that what the convoy was about and the protests in Ottawa were about giving Canadians hope, giving Canadians hope. We'd all thought we were alone. We'd lost so much hope. We had despair about what the government was doing to our rights and our children and our communities and our economies and our jobs and the social fabric of our country. But the truckers and the Freedom Convoy and the protests in Ottawa and the people who lined the highways gave Canadians hope. So what the board is recommending Canadians do who want to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of this incredible protest, this peaceful protest about the charter and government overreach and the rule of law, that on Saturday, February 28th, the 1-year anniversary of the trucks arriving officially into Ottawa last year. So this
January.
Saturday coming up.
Yeah, January.
Did I say February again?
I think you said February. Sorry. Yeah. January 28th.
January 28th.
Okay.
This Saturday, January 28th, 2023, at noon. If you went to an overpass, I got some emails the other day that someone said, I'd like to go to that same overpass I stood on, and I'm going to do it on the Saturday, January 28th. But can you pick a time? So I talked to Tamara or some of the other people, and they said, hey, let's go with noon. So we're just encouraging people to lawfully go to the sidewalk they stood on, the overpass they stood on, and wave a flag at noon on Saturday. Put a flag on your vehicle, drive around with a flag in the window of your car or your truck, or the hockey stick in the back of the truck this Saturday, just to show, just to commemorate the importance of Canadians coming together and building hope for millions in Canada and millions around the world.
Well, it was an amazing event that took place just about a year ago now, and it's so awe-inspiring, and it inspired so many people to get involved in the movement towards freedom, involved in politics, civic duties, all of these things, and I thank everybody who was involved in it, because it was just such a proud moment for all Canadians out there. I want to thank you so much for coming on, Keith.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
And thank you guys for joining again for another video. And well, we'll see what are you doing on January 28th, this Saturday coming up. Will you be going to the overpasses? Will you be joining people on the overpasses? Maybe you didn't join them the last time. Let me know in the comment section down below what you'll be doing for this January 28th. And do you have any other plans during this time? During the Freedom Convoy anniversaries? Let me know what's going on, if there's any events happening in your local areas. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.